think that this is one of those things that you're really going to benefit by listening all the way through. Because what I'm going to be talking about are what I think are some of the most important books that you as a law firm owner or just as a human being should really be reading. And I'm going to skip over, Think and Get Rich and those kinds of really well-known books. And I'm going to focus on books that maybe are not as well-known. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first, and I'm not going to do this in any particular order. I did this in the order I pulled it out of my bookcase. So as you can see, I do a voracious amount of reading. If you've listened to any of the podcasts that I've been interviewed on of recent, The Maximum Lawyer, How to Grow a Small Firm, those kinds of podcasts, which I highly recommend you should be listening to those. I think those are really wonderful and you can learn a lot. It's like a little mini mastermind, actually. I talk, but the reason I bring it up is because on those shows, I talk a lot about how important it is to read. As a matter of fact, I was being interviewed by the Student Attorney podcast out of the UK, and they were asking, well, what would I recommend to, young lawyers? And one of the things, learn how to tell a story, learn how to ask questions, but most importantly, you got to read. You got to read. That's how you learn about people. There's so many things that you need to know. So I am going to go through a number of books that you may or may not have heard of, and give you just a super quick synopsis and a suggestion why you might want to read it. All right, so let's get started here. The first one is The Art of Fear. Now, again, this is not in any particular order. Christine Umer was a world champion extreme skier. I mean, she could ski circles around me. Just an amazing athlete. And she had to deal with fear. And that's what this book is about. And the reason why I think that this is an important book is if you can learn to identify the fears that you have. I mean, we all have fears. We all have things that we're concerned about. And especially if you're, trying to run a business and make your overhead and all of those things. There's fear, and a lot of the reason why people don't do the things that they need to do is because they're afraid. And this book, I think, helps you kind of recognize that, identify it, and deal with it. This book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, Greg Crabtree. I've talked about this on a number of occasions. You really only need to read the first few chapters if you just want to get the major nugget out of this. But the major nugget out of this is the importance of paying yourself a salary as opposed to living on a draw. If you are, if you want to know the value of your firm, if you want to know what it's worth without you being there, you got to be paying yourself a salary because that's what you would be using to replace yourself. So it's a worthy read. It's short, but I think that people should read it. All right, Dan Kennedy, No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Now, Dan Kennedy is the mentor to several of my mentors. All right, Dan Kennedy is quite the character, quite the entrepreneur. I mean, he's written a whole series of the BS books, or the No BS books. But this one, I mean, I will just tell you, it's harsh. He is like, if you got a 20-minute call, as soon as it hits 20 minutes, click. I don't subscribe to everything that he says in here, but boy, you'll get some good ideas. And what he really is impressing upon you, or certainly impressed upon me, was the value of my time and why I have to guard it, because nobody else is going to respect it without that. All right, I'm going to just make a quick pitch. Legalese, The Ultimate Guide How to Survive a Law Practice. I wrote this. I think it's the best that I could put out there. I'm going to probably wind up updating it, but there is, it's a quick read. It doesn't go through all the whys of things. It just tells you, or makes suggestions of things that you can do that can improve your performance, improve your capacity, prove your value as an attorney, your profitability. And the number one thing in there I talk about at length is sleep. All right, next one. Mike Michalowicz, the toilet paper entrepreneur. Now, Mike Michalowicz wrote Profit First. I'm going to talk about that in a minute because I think that that's a critical book. But this book, especially if you are just starting out as a law firm owner, this talks about how to, do things on the cheap and make it work. I don't want to spoil the metaphor of it, but this is how to be scrappy. This is how to really think things through and go, okay, how do I find a solution when I don't really have a lot of money available to me? What is this, what is the shortcut? What is the hack? What is the fix that I can do to make it work at least long enough till I have made the kind of money? Very good book. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And this one, this is not my signed copy. I do have a signed copy of it. This is so important that you understand why you do what you do. We spend the vast majority of our days doing things out of habit. What we do in the morning, what we do in the evening, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, that saves a lot of resources. It's a habit or a system that you've set up for your day or the way you're living your life. But the question is, what if it's a habit and it's not a good habit, and you want to change it? Okay, that's what this book deals with, and the importance of developing good habits and how you do that. Great book, definitely should be read. Profit First, Mike Michalowicz. I just mentioned Mike's The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. This book is phenomenal. It changed our accounting system. I've talked about this quite a bit, but instead of using the classic profit and loss, expenses or revenue minus expenses equals profit, you just flip it on your head and you go revenue minus profit, and you cut a chunk out of there, leaves my budget. And that's what I have to run my business on. And that's why, in tandem with the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, it's pretty good, because sometimes you don't have enough to do everything that you want to do. And so, coming up with some creative solutions, really valuable. Solve for Happy. Mo Gawat is the chief business officer, the CEO of Google X. Incredibly brilliant guy, horribly successful, the kind of guy that could go out and buy 2 Bentleys in a day. I mean, that's the kind of money, we're talking Google here, right? And he lost his son. And all of a sudden, everything else didn't matter. The money, the cars, the house, none of that mattered anymore. And he goes through the grieving process that he went through, and how he addressed things. I think it's really valuable, because every one of us is going to go through a loss or a tragedy, or I mean, that's the nature of life. And you can't control that. You're not going to be able to keep your parents alive forever. You're not going to, things happen. I mean, and the only thing you can control is how you react to it. And that's what this book really speaks to. Highly recommend it. For the business owner, the E-Myth Revisited. And if you're an attorney, there's the E-Myth for attorneys. I think I loaned it out because I can't find my copy of it. The E-Myth. This is not email. This is E-Myth. Entrepreneurial myth. That's what the E stands for. Entrepreneurial. A lot of, when I first picked it up, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't, I'm thinking email, right? This is really important, especially if you're a small law firm owner, and understanding that you can't do everything. You have to be able to separate yourself, from being the craftsman and the entrepreneur. You can do both. And I definitely did do both, but you have to recognize that they are very different skill sets, and they are very different requirements, and you need to be honest about it. And you need to understand that you're running a business. Okay. And if you're a law firm owner, you are running a business that provides legal services, and it is subject to all of the same issues that all other businesses are, plus all the regulations of the bar. So, and all of these books are pretty quick reads. I have to say, you can hammer through them, or you can get them on audio tape, but you need to know the information in there. All right. Traction, Gino Wickman. This book's brilliant, and every business owner should read it and understand the importance of planning. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of great concepts in here, but my biggest takeaway was the importance of planning on a regular basis, so that you keep the ship going the direction that you want it to go. And if you have a change of heart about that direction, then you make the adjustments that you need to make. I mean, the market changes, but Traction, it really does lay out a formula for you. If I were to say, if the first book to read, I don't know. There's a lot of really good ones, but Traction would definitely be among those. All right, Your Money or Your Life. You know what this book really nailed home for me was the value of my time. If you do some of the calculations that are in here about time value and how much time, if you think you're going to work, you're probably not counting your commute, whether it's 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. I mean, one of the things that I was very fortunate is I lived literally a 10-minute walk or a 2-minute drive to the office. So my commute time was, for all intents and purposes, zero. But if you are commuting, that's stuff that you would be doing that's stuff you would not be doing, I should say, would not be doing if you didn't have that job. So it is a cost of that job to you. It is some of the time that you're going to take, whether you're taking it away from sleeping, playing your guitar, going for a bike ride, hanging out with your spouse, whatever. Okay. Your Money or Your Life. Not only do I recommend it for business owners, get a real good handle on your financial situation. I know that was a struggle for me, to really understand the value of a dollar and in the currency of time. What's this dollar worth in the currency of time? So would you give, how much time would you give up for a certain amount of money? That's what it really boils down to. Anyway, worthy of a read. 10% Happier, Dan Harris. Now, again, if you follow me on Facebook or any of those social medias, I just passed a year of meditating every single day. Didn't miss a day. I'm actually on day 1 or 379, I think. So important. This is the story of Dan Harris, who's a newspaper anchor who was busy. I mean, just crazy busy, and was introduced to meditation and really, tried to find every possible reason why it was a scam and a fraud and shouldn't be given the time of day. And he wound up writing this book because he not only could he not find that, but what he found is that it really did make a big difference in his life. And that 10 minutes, that minimum of 10 minutes that I give myself every day, if I get nothing else for myself, I get that. Now, don't feel too bad for me. I do tend to take a lot of, I go for my bike rides and I go and play my guitar and I do things for me, but I didn't always have that opportunity. And so, giving myself 10 minutes, that is like blocked off sacrosanct on the calendar. All right. The next one. The Rise of Superman. This is about flow. And, if you're an athlete, like I have always been, as long as I can remember, I've been an athlete, about flow. Sometimes they call it the runner's high, but it's that period of where you just feel like everything is in sync. Everything is just right with the world. And, you know, and I get that running, biking, skiing, just sometimes being out in the wilderness. Well, what's that all about? And this really talks about that. And it talks about all the extreme athletes and how they, you know, are doing the stuff. You know, I've been an extreme athlete, not like jumping off cliffs and whatever, but although I have jumped off of cliffs skiing, you know, when I was young and really stupid. But this is about flow and how to get into flow and how to understand the importance of flow. Because when we talk about peak performance, we talk about you performing at your very best. Learning how to get into flow is critical. You know, I would say one of the gifts that I've learned when I do a closing argument in a jury trial, I am in the zone, man. You know, I step up there and I may be nervous and, you know, can't remember exactly what the opening line is or whatever, but I have a trigger system. I step up to that podium, man, and I'm in the zone, man. There's nothing else in the world that's going on. That's being in the zone. You know, on a bike ride, I can be in the zone. Skiing, a lot of times, boy, going powder skiing, I can just get into the zone, you know, get into flow. So this book, The Rise of Superman, and Stephen Collier is a excellent author. The other book that he wrote was The Art of Impossible. You know, The Rise of Superman, The Art of Impossible, man, those two books are off the hook good. If you really want to be the very best. And then the last one, I'm gonna, you know, I'm not even sure where this is available. It was given to me by the author, who's also a mentor of mine and somebody that I you know, I just owe so much gratitude to. But it's The Favor, and it's written by Richard James, and it's the story of a struggling lawyer who, you know, befriends a mentor, and that mentor walks him through the process so that he's home for dinner and he starts to have the life that he wants to have, and he begins to repair some of the damage in his life that have come by being overstressed, you know, just having too much to do, which is where so many small and solo lawyers are, right? You just have too much to do, and it's super hard to let go. You know, and I know I've been there, and so that's what this book's about. And it really, at the end of the day, the message is a mentor can help you through that. I mean, you can do it yourself, maybe, but boy, that's the slow boat. You know, when I got serious about mentors, I mean, I got serious about mentors as when I was a young lawyer, the public defender's office, and I skyrocketed. You know, I was the youngest person ever in the special trials unit, the public defender's office in Santa Clara County. I was doing death penalty cases by the time I was 30. I'd been practicing, you know, a little bit less than 5 years at that point. So my point is that, you know, with mentors, I just skyrocketed through the system. And then when I went out on my own, I really struggled because I didn't have a business mentor. I didn't have somebody helping me. And when I finally recognized that it was important to invest, and investment does often require money, right? But it, even more important, it requires time and it requires effort. And what I've just given you are a pile of books that if you read those books and treated each of those books as a mentor, you would make great progress. Now, I've read every single one of these books. I can go through these books and give you the nuggets that matter in your particular situation. I mean, maybe fear is not a problem for you. So maybe that book should go towards the end. Maybe you've got your accounting stuff all squared away, and so you don't need profit first. You know, there's that's the value of having someone who's gone through everything. So I've done that, and that's why I can help you through a lot of these issues. All right, everybody. I hope you all have a great day, and remember, be grateful for what you have, and be willing to work for what you want. Thanks.